Allende, the winner of the National Literature Prize of Chile, 2010. What an honor it is to come face to face with this phenomenal talent, with extraordinary imagination and a magical pen. I'm Angelina Yi, the Executive Director of the Center for the Pacific Rim. Before I leave you with this illustrious speaker, I'm afraid I have to say a few words about the center and its public programs. I'm sorry, this is the price you must pay for coming here. The Center for the Pacific Rim is the university's trans-Pacific bridge to promote understanding among peoples, nations, and economies of the Pacific Rim through its education, research, and public outreach programs. We run a master's program in Asia-Pacific Studies, a bachelor's program in Asian Studies, a Ricci Institute that promotes Chinese Western cultural history, as well as the Japan Policy Research Institute that does research on issues related to Japan and the region. The center is also the world headquarters of the Nautilus Institute for Security and Sustainability that specializes in public policy research in Northeast Asia, and the U.S. headquarters of China Dialogue, a web-based discussion forum promoting dialogue with China on the environment. Since our founding in 1988, the center has been at the forefront of public education about the Pacific Rim in the San Francisco Bay Area. We present seminars, lectures, and international conferences on a wide range of Asia-related topics. All our events are free and open to the public as of now. One never knows, we may have to soon pass a hat around. I believe you've all received a copy of the list of forthcoming programs. Have you? No, there's a stack outside, so please pick one up when you exit. And I look forward to your continued participation and support of our programs. Let me now pass the microphone to Professor Patrick Lloyd Hatcher, our in-house Charlie Rose. He is the center's distinguished Kiriyama visiting professor, formerly a professor of history and political science department at the University of California, Berkeley, who masterminds our public programs. He will now introduce and moderate our discussions with our distinguished guest today. Again, welcome and enjoy. Thank you.
Isabel, you should pay close attention to the word distinguished, because that's in front of me. Sitting to my left and your right is the youngest, most beautiful grandmother in all of California.
Your age is showing.
In 1982, her star was launched with the publication of a brilliant book, The House of the Spirits. Many people only have one or at the most two books in them. Isabel is a publishing phenomenon. The books keep coming. She fills shelves in the library. So far we have 8 novels, 2 memoirs, and a trilogy of children's books. This is her 3rd visit here with us. She came for Zorro, then Inez of the Spirit, and now Island Beneath the Sea. If you've been here 3 times, we might think of making you an honorary Jesuit.
Yes. Can you hear me? Very little, huh? Okay, good.
But in the case of the honorary, you don't have to take any vows. So we want to start with your...
Celibacy would be very hard for me. What about you?
Oh, the Jesuits will never have me. I'm already a reject.
I'm talking about celibacy.
Isabel is talking about celibacy. She pronounces it in the Spanish way. And we'll get to that because of your new book, which is very, very sexy. But before we get to that, I'd like to get to your earlier career. You were born in Peru because your father was a diplomat there, but you were raised in Chile. And you started your writing career as a journalist. Did journalism teach you anything about writing?
Yeah, I think that it was a very good training. Journalism taught me to have a deadline, to research, to conduct, facilitate an interview so that you can extract from the person what the person doesn't want to say. And in general, I think that journalism trains you to grab the reader and not let the reader go, because you are competing with other articles in the same media and with other media. So if you can't grab your reader, you are lost. I never forget that I have a reader. And that's good training for a writer, because usually writers write for themselves, for their friends, and for the critics. So nobody reads them.
One of the other greats from South American literature, Gabriel Garcia Marquez of 100 Years of Solitude, also trained first as a journalist.
Most writers from Latin America have gone through journalism. It's like the beginning for all of them. And also because, in a way, in Latin America, until very recently, you really couldn't be a writer, excuse me, if you were not in the streets, if you were not involved in politics, if you were not part of a community and an ideology. It's when you, in the United States, you say that a writer of fiction is a political writer, it's almost a liability. In Latin America, you have to be political.
I want to ask you about a question. In the 1960s, a woman wrote a book called Sexual Politics, which she maintained that men could not write a real woman into their work. She used terrible examples of Norman Mailer, Henry Miller, and even my favorite, Ernest Hemingway. Do you have any problem writing men into your work?
No, I don't have any problems because I study men. And, it's much easier for women to write about men than for men to write about women, especially of my generation. Because women of my generations were trained to observe men. They held the power. So we had to learn how their minds and their penises work to be able to manipulate them. On the other hand, men don't have to go through that process, so they know very little about women. It's changing now because with the new generations, men are beginning to be interested.
We've always been interested, but the question is, can we recreate you on the printed page?
Well, it depends. Some writers have been able to do it. For me, it's easier to write from the point of view of a woman, of course. But I can write from the mind of a man, too. I wrote The Infinite Plan, which is the story of my husband. I married him for the visa and to get the story. So it was easy to write it because I was in his mind for 4 years to write the book. Well, in his bed, too.
Isabel's husband is with us tonight in the front row. She's very lucky to have got him. He's a magnificent Irishman and also a writer in his own right, doing wonderful detective stories about San Francisco that are well known in Europe, but just to be known here. And so as soon as he gets a English translation, he will be sitting up here, and Isabel will be sitting down there. I promise you, Willie. So you're not a feminist writer. You're not a feminist?
Of course I'm a feminist. Any intelligent woman is a feminist. Now, To be a feminist doesn't mean that I don't like men or that I have hairy legs. No. It means that I support women's issues, and I think that we live in a patriarchy and we still have a long way to go. I have a foundation that works with women and girls, and women do 2/3 of the labor in the world, and they own less than 1% of the resources. Women are still sold into premature marriage, prostitution, forced labor. They are still beaten up, abused, raped with total impunity. So things have to change. When I started with feminism, I was a young woman of 20. And I thought, well, in 10 years, we will be done. We will have achieved what we wanted, because it was such a fair thing. It was just a matter of justice. I thought it was so clear. But now I'm 67, and things have changed for many women, but for many have not.
You have, I looked up on your bio, a Isabel Allende Foundation, which amazingly works on the other side of the Pacific Rim. I believe it did a lot of work in Bangladesh.
Well, it did work, it does work in India, in Bangladesh, in Nepal, but our main focus are immigrants in the United States, especially Latinos, and Chile. We have some projects in Mexico, Guatemala, Haiti. I think we are too extended. And we need to focus more, but it's hard. Once you adopt a program, how can you drop it? It's almost impossible. And my experience has been very good, because of all the programs that we have done for 14 years, only one has not worked. And only one we had to drop. So I think that the result has been amazing.
With your new book, you have moved beyond the Spanish-speaking world, since you chose to go to Haiti in the time of revolutions. Was there some specific reason that Haiti was an attractive setting for this newest novel?
I wasn't planning to write about Haiti. I was planning to write about New Orleans. And because I had gone there for Zorro, and I fell in love. It's a wonderful city, New Orleans. And when I went there to do the research, to write about pirates of the Caribbean and that kind of stuff, I realized that the French flavor that it has comes from, well, it was a French colony for a while, but it comes from 10,000 refugees that came to New Orleans in the 1800s, at the beginning of the 1800s. They were running away from the slave revolt in Saint-Domingue, which is now Haiti. And then I started thinking, well, why were they running away? Being myself a refugee, I was very interested. And then I started learning about the history of Haiti that is extraordinary. It was the first independent Negro republic in America. It was the first independent country in Latin America. It was the only slave revolt in history that has succeeded. And these people fought with machetes against the cannons of Napoleon and defeated them. So it's an extraordinary event, unique in history.
When I read the book, I thought of Toni Morrison's wonderful novels that are written in the form of slave narratives. And in this particular novel, you have a woman who is the daughter of a slave who was brought from the Guinea coast. The story is rather tragic. The mother is raped in the voyage over the Middle Passage. She comes to Haiti. She wants to destroy herself and her child. She succeeds in destroying herself, but not her child. The child becomes the heroine of the book, and her child herself, when sold to a French planter, is raped by the planter. So you have a series of events here which has always interested the new group of African American writers, which has to do with the fact that in 4 or 5 generations, many of these people were very mixed in their black-white backgrounds. And you certainly have it in this novel. And they became a unique group of people, and in many cases were caught up in the slave system in the South, because if you had 1/16 of black blood, you could then pass for white. It's actually written into the slave codes in states like my home state of Virginia. And you had names for these people like quadroons, which told you how much black blood they had. And so in finding this young girl, you were able to tie a story that takes us from Haiti to Cuba and then to New Orleans. She, of course, is a woman determined to be free.
Yeah, she was born with the obsession of freedom, which I think is natural in human beings. I don't think there's nothing special about the obsession of this slave girl. We all want to be free. We all want to have some control of our lives. And in the case of women, it was particularly horrible because they had no power to protect their children. The fact that, according to the Black Code, you could not sell a child, separate the child from the mother until the child was 7 years old, which was not always respected. Babies were sold all the time. But can you imagine that your child of 7 is sold to somebody else and you have no control over the fate of your child? I think it's horrible. And the whole point of the book, which is slavery, brought me, put me in touch with abolitionist movements today. I had no idea that they still existed and that slavery was such a problem today. Today there are 27 million slaves counted, more than ever before in history, and who knows how many more that are not counted. The difference is that before, the economy of the world was based on slavery, was sustained by slavery. And today, the forced labor that is slave work is even less than 1%. So if it was completely eliminated, it wouldn't make any difference in the economy of the world. While then, it did make a difference. So when I got involved with these movements, I realized that all countries have signed, in all countries have abolished slavery, all of them. However, in all of them, there are some forms of slavery. And Haiti, even the United States. And Haiti, which fought so bravely for its freedom, has 300,000, this is before the earthquake, 300,000 children that live in slavery, the Restavek. These are children that are sold or given away because the parents cannot feed them. And they work as slaves, as domestic slaves.
Your book was very direct about an issue that, let me see, this used to be the Jesuit altar when this was a chapel, so I'd be very careful. The assumption of the West in dealing with almost all people that they contacted, particularly the European West, was to see them as pagan, without any spiritual values, without any spiritual culture. So when we meet these slaves, mainly taken from the Guinea coast, the assumption of the white owners in Haiti and later then in Cuba is that they have no value that is spiritual in their makeup and the way they live in communities. And yet, of course, you show that that's not true at all. It's not the Western view. And by the time you get them to Cuba and get the people onward to New Orleans, you find your heroine and others within her group. Particularly, I know this to be the case in Cuba, where I go frequently, and that is there is a blend in Cuba between Catholicism and the African religions that came with the people. In Cuba, they call it Santeria. And it's a wonderful way that you have of explaining how the heroine looks to both sides to pray, to find some resolve to keep her children, to fight for her life. It's both religions blended together in a very wonderful way. She goes to those dances at night that she's forbidden to go to because there's a sense of celebration of her African past.
Well, it's very interesting because after 4 years of research, I know that many people have studied this for years, and the success of the slave revolt is very difficult to explain. How did they do it? I strongly believe that they achieved this because there was a spiritual force that united and empowered them.